Welcome back to another episode of our 60 lessons that we've learned over 60 years. And today, what we're going to do is answer the most common questions that we've been asked. So the first question is, and it's definitely the most common question, is how's the market? And to answer that question, it's actually a series of questions, because your average realtor, if someone asks them how's the market, it's, oh, the market's great. The market's always great. And actually, if you want to give some value to the customer, you ask them, are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Or are you an investor? Because it's going to be a different marketplace for each.
Yeah.
So, depending on if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, if it's a buyer's market, how's the market? Well, you're going to be competing with other buyers. There's limited inventory, and make sure you have all your ducks in a row when you're making offers.
It depends on the price. If you're in the 200 to 500 price range,
that's another factor.
It could be hotter than the 500 to $1 million or the $1 million to $2 million.
Yeah.
So all the market sectors are going to be different.
Yeah.
When we go next?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is a common question is, how much are my closing costs? Closing costs are on a typical seller are going to be doc stamps, title insurance, and real estate commission. So about 7.25% of the sale price is going to be your typical closing cost. On a buyer, depending on the lender, your closing cost should be 2 to 3% of the mortgage amount, not of the sale price, but of the mortgage amount. So, that's a question we get asked all the time. How much money do I need to save for these costs?
What do you think a good starting offer would be? So with that question, there's always some strategy. You have to look at the marketplace. You have to look at days on market, what's recently sold. And, it's not only just the price, it's the terms. Because we get offers so many times, and they're just riddled with unnecessary contingencies, with no deal certainty to the seller. So in addition to price, you have to look at the terms too.
Yeah, and the reality is you want to assess what the seller's motivation is. So is the seller being transferred? Does the seller need to sell? Seller just put it on the market to see what happens. If they do, you're probably not going to get a bargain, as we would call it.
So what's a good starting offer? Sometimes it's 10% below. Sometimes it's $5,000 over asking. It's all going to depend on the situation.
Yeah, and if it's a multiple offer situation, you're typically want to come in with your best shot and your cleanest offer. If it's full of contingencies, you're going to get thrown out because someone else is going to come in with something cleaner. Another question, what does it mean by an as-is contract? We talked about that in lesson 4, which will fully explain it, but as is where you buy the house and you're thinking that everything's in great condition, but you may get your inspection back and say, hey, the air conditioner's on its last leg. You may want to mitigate that, as we talked about in the other ones, but in our other lessons. You may want to get a home inspection. You may want to negotiate a little bit with the seller on that. You may say, hey, I got a good enough deal, I'm willing to move forward. But
as is means no obligations.
Exactly.
No obligations for the buyers and no obligations for the sellers. And lessons 4, I think, really
covers that. It does.
How long does it take to buy a house? Zillow survey says the average buyer spends 4.5 months from start to finish on closing a home. So we see people start the process earlier these days with all the portals and all information out there. So sometimes we may answer, buyer questions 6 months before they even, make their visit. So it's going to depend. But typically, I think Zillow's right on this. About 4.5 months is probably about the average.
Yeah. Then we get the buyer that we have the
impulse buy.
Yeah, the impulse buy that calls and says, hey, we weren't looking to buy something, but we saw this house pop up on the market. What do you think? Yeah. And they buy the house, the one and only house they look at that same day. So it goes both ways. Next question: where can I find out about the schools?
So we provide a service to our customers. It's called List Reports. We pay for the service, and it tells the people, which school they're going to go to whenever they're looking at that house. And it also rates them from, 1 to 10. So they know that, they're buying a house in a good school system or not so good school system.
Yeah.
How much is my home worth? Well, we get this a lot. So there's a lot of information out there, and we call those automatic valuation models. So that's your Zillow, your Redfin, your Realtor.com, your ComeHome.com, and they're at e-appraisals. And they're going to give you a range or what they think your house is worth based on computer algorithms. Those are typically within 20%. So, with that type of a range, that's more of entertainment value, I would say. So if you really want to know what your house is worth, you need to have one of us come out, or both of us come out, put eyes on the property so that we can see the condition, and then compare it to what else is sold, put that into the appraisal software, and then adjust that with the appraisal adjustments, and then you'll get a really good indication of what your house is worth.
And then we do the range. So you'll have low, middle, or high range. So if your house is spectacular, it's been totally updated, you're going to be on the higher end of it. If it needs some updating, you might be in the middle. If it needs a new roof and you need a lot of, you might be on the lower end. So
and
we're going to give you the range, and the seller at the end is going to say, hey, I want to think I'm in the high range, or I think I'm in the middle range, but we'll give them some guidance.
Yeah. So what's my house worth? It's whatever the market will pay you.
Yeah, it's true.
Whatever a buyer will pay you.
Okay, so that was fun. Next episode, we're going to share about the top things that buyers want to see when they're shopping for a home. We'll see you next week.
If you're enjoying our videos and our topics, subscribe to our YouTube channel or like our Facebook page for our weekly videos.